He barely spoke the entire evening, just sat there, calm, composed, completely at ease with himself. And yet every woman in the room noticed him. Every man wondered who he was. Why? He wasn't trying to be charming. He wasn't laughing loudly or flexing status. He didn't tell stories to get attention or try to prove anything to anyone. He just existed, with quiet power. He leaned back, not forward. He spoke rarely, but when he did, people listened. He had presence, an aura that made people respect him before he ever opened his mouth. And here's the truth. In a world addicted to noise, the man who doesn't beg for attention becomes magnetic. He speaks less, but says more. He doesn't compete, he doesn't chase, he doesn't perform. He draws in. That's what separates a man who merely talks from a man who communicates value without even trying. And that, right there, is the essence of high-value communication. Welcome to Stoic Spirit, the channel where ancient Stoic wisdom meets modern masculine clarity. If you're the kind of man who values strength over noise, direction over confusion, and purpose over performance, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and support the mission, because here we don't just speak, we lead with silence, power, and presence. Let's break it down. 1. Real men don't talk to vent, they talk to lead. Most people talk just to relieve pressure inside their own heads. They blurt things out, they overshare, they complain, they justify. They talk not because they have something meaningful to say, but because they can't stand the silence. But here's the harsh truth. Talking too much is usually just emotional leakage. It's not strength, it's self-soothing. High-value men are different. They don't speak to feel better. They speak to lead. Every word is calculated. Every sentence has direction. They use language like a tool, not a crutch. They understand that power doesn't come from talking more. It comes from being heard when you finally choose to speak. And here's the paradox. The less you say, the more people listen. If your presence is built on strength, real men don't use their voice to beg for approval. They speak to express what already exists inside them: clarity, conviction, and calm purpose. Most men feel the urge to explain themselves endlessly. Let me tell you what I really meant. I didn't mean to offend you. Here's why I'm a good guy. They're hoping that more words will buy them understanding. But here's the Stoic truth. Needing to explain yourself too much is already a form of begging. It signals uncertainty. A man who's grounded doesn't need everyone to agree with him. He doesn't need to be liked. He doesn't seek validation. He radiates self-assurance. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's how high-value men speak. Not to prove, not to persuade, but to declare who they are. When a real man speaks, he doesn't ramble. He makes people pause. He creates space for his words to land. He understands that silence, when used intentionally, amplifies power. And more importantly, he knows that his words must match his values. Because words without integrity are just noise. But words spoken from a calm, unwavering core, that's how influence begins. So ask yourself before every conversation, am I speaking because I'm afraid of silence, or because I have something worth saying? Am I talking to get approval or to give direction? A man who speaks to lead doesn't try to fill the room. He anchors it. 2. Your body speaks before you do. Your body is speaking all the time, even when you think you're being quiet. In fact, long before your mouth opens, your body has already made a first impression. Your posture, your breath, your tension, your movement, these reveal everything about your mental and emotional state. And people, especially women, read it instantly. That's why high-value men train not just their words, but their presence. They understand that you can say everything without saying a word. When a high-value man walks into a room, he doesn't slump his shoulders or shrink his frame. He doesn't hide behind his phone or scan the room nervously. He stands tall, grounded, as if the earth beneath his feet belongs to him. His spine is straight, but not stiff. His chest is open, not to show off, but because he has nothing to hide. His head stays level, not tilted down in submission or up in arrogance, but balanced, calmly aware. His eyes don't dart around, they settle, they observe, they lock in when necessary, not with aggression, but with clarity. He's not trying to intimidate, he's just fully present. And presence is power. His breath is deep, slow, and controlled. His movements are deliberate. He doesn't rush, he doesn't flinch, he doesn't fidget with his hands or bounce his legs or adjust his shirt every 5 seconds. That's what boys do when they feel out of place. A man who moves with certainty commands attention, even when no one's looking for him. Stillness is strength. Animals in the wild know this. The predator doesn't make noise. He observes, he waits, he conserves energy until it's time to act. The same goes for men. When your body is still and composed, it sends one clear message. I'm not in survival mode. I'm in control. People will notice. Women will feel it, men will respect it, and most importantly, you will feel it inside yourself. Your body will reinforce the message your mind believes. I am centered. I don't chase approval. I don't need to force energy. I am the energy. So train your body like you train your voice. Walk slower. Breathe deeper. Hold your gaze. Control your tempo. Don't perform. Command. Let your body say what your words never could. I don't need to speak to be powerful. Because at the end of the day, communication isn't just about what you say. It's about what people feel when you enter the room. And that begins long before your first word. 3. Speak slowly, speak less, speak powerfully. A weak man believes that being loud makes him powerful. He raises his voice, talks over others, and fills every second with noise, hoping someone will finally listen. But high-value men know the truth. Power doesn't come from volume, it comes from presence, and the way you speak reflects the way you lead. Strong men don't rush their words. They don't feel the need to explain every thought or justify every move. They speak slowly, clearly, and intentionally. Their tone is steady. Their pace is calm. Why? Because they own the space they speak in. They don't compete for attention. They command it by slowing things down. A man who speaks slowly tells the world, I'm not in a rush. I'm not insecure. I'm not trying to impress you. I trust my words to do the work. Every pause adds gravity. Every sentence lands with precision. There's no wasted breath, no filler words, no nervous rambling, just presence. Think of it like this. When a man speaks quickly, people assume he's nervous, or that his words don't matter. But when a man speaks slowly, people assume he's in control, and that everything he says matters. That's the power of tempo. When you speak with deliberate calm, people instinctively feel they should pay attention. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you deliver it. Even a simple phrase like, I'm not interested, can either sound weak or unshakable, depending on your tone, your pace, and your posture. High-value men know how to let their words breathe. They're not afraid of silence between sentences. They embrace it because they know silence amplifies the weight of what's next. Speaking slowly also reflects internal peace. A racing mind produces rushed speech, but a calm mind produces calm communication. It tells others that your thoughts are already ordered, that you're not reaching for words, you're choosing them. There's also another level. When you speak slowly, you stay in control of yourself. You prevent emotional outbursts. You avoid saying things you'll regret. You anchor yourself in intention, not impulse. This is one of the most underrated tools of a Stoic man, using tempo as emotional discipline. So if you want to speak like a man of value, practice this. Slow down. Strip the fluff from your speech. Replace nervous chatter with thoughtful pauses. Use fewer words, but choose them like weapons. When you control your pace, you control the room. Let the world lean in to hear you, not because you're loud, but because you mean it. 4. Silence is a weapon. Learn to use it. Most men are terrified of silence. The moment a conversation slows down, they scramble to fill it. They think silence means failure, like they've lost the connection. But here's the truth. Silence isn't awkward. It's powerful. And the high-value man doesn't run from it. He wields it. Silence creates space. Space creates tension. And tension, when held with calmness, creates attraction. That's why people lean in around a man who's not afraid to be quiet. He doesn't talk just to keep the air moving. He speaks when it's necessary and when it's earned. Women feel this instinctively. When a man is comfortable with silence, it tells them something primal. This man is not desperate. He's not seeking approval. He doesn't need to perform to be valued. He is the value. That's attractive on a deep subconscious level. In conversations, silence can flip the entire dynamic. When someone challenges you or tries to bait you emotionally, most men react instantly. They raise their voice, they get defensive, they try to prove their point. But the high-value man doesn't react, he waits. He lets the silence stretch, and that silence forces the other person to confront themselves. People will reveal more in your silence than in your questions. They'll ramble, they'll over-explain, they'll show their insecurity just to fill the void. That's when you learn what you really need to know. Silence is also a boundary. Sometimes the strongest response to disrespect is none at all. Not everything deserves your energy. Not every message deserves a reply. Not every insult deserves an argument. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. And let's go deeper. Silence isn't just a social strategy, it's a spiritual one. A man who can sit in silence is a man who's made peace with himself. He doesn't need external noise to feel alive. His mind is not a battlefield. His emotions aren't controlling him. In stillness, he becomes dangerous, not because he's aggressive, but because he's unshakable. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." The high-value man embodies this. He listens, he watches, he waits, and when he finally speaks, his words land like thunder because people know he doesn't speak lightly. So stop fearing the quiet. Stop rushing to fill every gap. Let your silence say what words cannot. I am in control. I do not chase. I am enough. And those who can't handle your silence, they're not meant for your energy. 5. Don't react. Respond. From power. Most men are ruled by impulse. They get offended easily, triggered quickly. And the moment something feels uncomfortable, they react. Instantly, emotionally, and often regretfully. But a high-value man doesn't do that. He doesn't hand over his power just because someone else tried to shake him. He doesn't react, he responds, and there's a world of difference between the two. Reacting is emotional, responding is strategic. Reacting is fast, blind, and uncontrolled. Responding is calm, conscious, and grounded. The Stoics had a word for this, apatheia, not in the modern sense of apathy or not caring, but in the ancient sense, emotional invincibility. The ability to remain centered regardless of what's happening outside. When she disrespects you, you don't raise your voice. You don't chase her trying to fix it. You don't spiral into validation-seeking mode. You pause, you assess, you let her actions speak louder than her words, and you respond with composure, if you respond at all. When she pulls away, you don't panic. You don't send desperate texts. You don't beg for clarity. You let her go, not out of weakness, but out of strength. Because the man who doesn't cling commands. And when she tries to trigger you with passive-aggressive comments, tests, or emotional games, you don't flinch. You don't play her game. You observe, stay rooted in your energy, and respond only if it aligns with your standards. Because when you allow someone else to control your emotions, you've already lost the frame. And make no mistake, the frame is everything. It's the invisible structure of the interaction. The person who holds the frame leads. The person who reacts emotionally to that frame follows. That's why losing control in a moment of anger, jealousy, or fear isn't just about being too emotional. It's about giving away leadership. High-value men lead emotionally. They lead the energy in the room. When others panic, they stay calm. When others attack, they remain composed. And that kind of inner stability is magnetic, not just to women, but to the world. So ask yourself, in moments of tension, do I collapse or center myself? Do I let the moment control me, or do I pause, breathe, and choose my response? Because the man who can pause is the man who holds power. You don't need to control everything, you just need to control yourself. That alone changes everything. 6. When he speaks to women, he speaks like a man. In a world where men are trained to appease, to soften their words, and to avoid offending anyone, true masculine communication has become rare and incredibly valuable. The high-value man doesn't dilute his words to please others. He doesn't beat around the bush. He speaks clearly, directly, and confidently, especially with women. He doesn't send long, emotional paragraphs explaining how he feels and hoping she understands. He doesn't respond with IDK, maybe, or whatever you want. Those phrases might sound polite, but they signal indecision, weakness, and lack of leadership. And whether she admits it or not, women are repelled by men who refuse to take a stand. The high-value man says what he means and means what he says. He speaks in short, strong sentences. This is what I want. Here's what works for me. That doesn't align with my values. He's not rude, he's clear, and that's what makes him trustworthy, because people don't trust uncertainty, they trust direction. Women crave masculine clarity, not because they're incapable of making decisions, but because it creates polarity. The masculine leads, the feminine responds. It's not a power struggle, it's nature in balance. And when you as a man speak from your center with decisive words, you create safety, not just attraction. You're not afraid to say no. You're not afraid to say, I'm not interested in that dynamic. You don't pretend to agree just to keep the peace. You don't walk on eggshells, because your truth matters more than her temporary approval. And here's what happens when you speak this way. You repel the wrong women, and you attract the right ones. You filter quickly. You don't waste time playing games or guessing what she wants. You state your standard, and you see who aligns. That's the key. Masculine communication is polarizing, and that's a good thing. If everyone agrees with you, you're probably not saying anything real. But when you communicate with purpose, you separate those who respect you from those who don't. So, stop over-explaining. Stop texting like you're trying to win a customer. Stop bending your words to sound nice. Say what you mean directly. And don't apologize for being a man who knows what he wants. Because when a man speaks like a man, he doesn't need to convince her. His clarity is the attraction. 7. He doesn't seek validation, he sets the standard. Most men enter conversations like salesmen. They're subtly, or not so subtly, trying to sell themselves. They drop hints about their accomplishments. They phrase everything just right to avoid offending. They soften their truths to gain favor. Why? Because they crave validation. They want to be accepted, liked, approved. But high-value men aren't in the business of selling themselves. They're in the business of being themselves, fully, unapologetically, with zero need for applause. They don't speak to impress, they speak to express. They don't scan the room to see if people agree. They anchor the room by standing in their truth. And if someone disagrees, that's perfectly fine. Because the high-value man isn't playing the popularity game, he's playing the principle game. He understands something powerful. Validation is addictive. The more you chase it, the more power you give away. And eventually, you end up living a version of yourself filtered through everyone else's opinions. That's not leadership. That's slavery. High-value men reverse the dynamic. Instead of chasing validation, they become the standard. They define what's acceptable in their world and what isn't. They don't need others to tell them they're enough. They decide that for themselves. This shows up in every conversation. When he talks, he doesn't sugarcoat or over-explain. He says what he believes with calm conviction and lets the chips fall where they may. That kind of certainty is rare, and when people sense it, they respect it. Even if they don't agree, they'll remember that man knew who he was. And here's the paradox. When you stop needing to be liked, people actually start liking you more. Because they sense authenticity, they sense boundaries, they sense leadership. And all of that is infinitely more attractive than approval-seeking energy. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." That's Stoicism at its core, and the foundation of masculine communication. So the next time you feel the need to tweak your message so others accept it, pause. Ask yourself, am I speaking from strength or from fear? Am I expressing my truth or packaging it to gain favor? Because the man who sets the standard doesn't wait for permission. He walks into the room, owns his energy, speaks with clarity, and lets the world adjust. 8. He understands timing, when to speak, when to shut up. A high-value man doesn't just know what to say. He knows when to say it, and just as importantly, when to stay silent. That's called timing. And in the realm of communication, it's everything. You can say the right thing at the wrong time and destroy your frame. You can speak too early and seem desperate. You can interrupt silence too soon and reveal insecurity. But the man who understands timing, he speaks like a strategist, like a sniper, silent, still, patient until the moment arrives. Then and only then he fires, and when he does, it's direct, impactful, and impossible to ignore. He knows when the energy in a room needs to shift. He knows when silence is creating pressure and when it's time to break that tension with a single grounded sentence. He doesn't fill space just to avoid discomfort. He uses space as a tool. He allows pauses. He lets people sit in their own words. Because here's what most people never realize. Silence makes people reveal themselves. When you say less, others say more. When you hold the frame, others react. And when you speak from calm stillness, not emotional need, you lead the entire interaction. This is especially powerful in relationships and dating. The average man feels compelled to keep the conversation going. He chases, he jokes, he performs. He responds too fast, texts too much, and never stops talking. Why? Because silence feels like rejection. But the high-value man knows better. He knows silence is often exactly what creates mystery, attraction, and respect. Timing also means knowing when not to share your thoughts. Sometimes your silence says more than your opinion ever could. It says, I'm not here to prove, I'm here to observe. You don't need to dominate every conversation. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing and watch. As Seneca once said, it is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. That's wisdom, that's restraint, that's power. So before you speak, check yourself. Is now the right moment? Is it coming from strength or from nervousness? Am I leading or leaking? Because the man who speaks at the right time doesn't need to say much. Just a few words, well-timed, can change the entire dynamic. And the man who knows when not to speak, that's the man everyone listens to when he finally does. Final lesson. Words are weapons. Use them like a warrior. Communication isn't about talking, it's about influence. And influence doesn't come from how many words you use, but from the weight behind them. The high-value man doesn't throw words around carelessly. He doesn't flood conversations with empty noise. He doesn't speak just to be heard. He speaks with precision. He speaks with purpose. Like a warrior drawing his sword, he doesn't move unless there's a reason. And when he does, it's swift, clean, undeniable. His words are not random. They're sharpened by thought, forged in self-awareness, and delivered with calm confidence. That's what makes them powerful. Not their volume, but their intention. In a world obsessed with being seen and heard, the man who speaks calmly cuts the deepest. He's not loud. He doesn't need to be. He doesn't dominate with aggression. He doesn't seek attention. He lets others burn themselves out trying to prove something. While he remains still, focused, listening, watching. And when he chooses to speak, people feel it. Because it's rare. Because it matters. This is how words become weapons, not through shouting, not through manipulation, but through mastery. And mastery begins with knowing yourself. Knowing when to speak, knowing when to remain silent, knowing what you stand for, and refusing to betray that truth just to fit in. The Stoics knew this. They believed in the discipline of speech, in speaking less but saying more, in choosing clarity over cleverness, in letting your actions reflect your character, and letting your words be a reflection of your discipline. So the next time you're in a conversation, take a breath. Ask yourself, am I speaking from fear or from power? Am I talking to fill space or to make impact? Am I leading the energy or following it? Because here's the truth. Women don't follow the loudest man. They don't follow the one who tries the hardest. They follow the one who speaks less, but speaks with presence, with certainty, with direction. The man who doesn't just talk, but communicates. And that's who you're becoming. So sharpen your words. Speak with intention. Let your voice carry the weight of your truth, not your insecurities. Say less, but mean more. And remember, the strongest men don't need to speak often, because their energy speaks for them. Thank you for watching today's video. If this message resonated with you, take a second to support the mission. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and share this with another man who's ready to upgrade how he communicates with the world. Here on Stoic Spirit, we don't just talk, we lead. We don't seek noise, we move in silence. And we don't chase validation, we embody value. Until next time, stand tall, speak less, move with purpose, and always carry the spirit of a Stoic warrior.